Am I audible, sir? Good evening, friends. We have a very interesting and relevant topic for discussion today. That is Real Estate Act 2016 and its regulatory authority, Real Estate Regulatory Authority, commonly known as RERA. In the year 1991, India faced a severe crisis of foreign exchange reserves, which were at an all-time low. In the aftermath of events, many sectors received a boost due to sudden increase in FDI inflow. One of them was the real estate sector, making it one of the catalysts of the tremendous growth of the Indian economy today. It is also one of the largest employment and gross domestic product generating sectors of India. This sector is one of the few sectors in India which enjoys 100% free FDI flow. Though the real estate sector was open to foreign investment only in 2005, when 100% FDI was allowed in this sector. The government even allowed foreign venture capitalists to invest in this sector post 2005. Recently, SEBI has given its approval for the Real Estate Investment Trust platform, which will help in allowing all kinds of investors to invest in Indian real estate market. It would create an opportunity worth rupees 1.25 trillion US dollar 19.65 billion in the Indian market over the years. With the advent to real estate sector and such big money pouring in, regulating measures become need of the hour. RERA Act came as a boon for all the investors. Before the commencement of RERA, there were no bindings and compulsions on the real estate developers and construction pioneers to deliver the property to its respective owners on time. An inconsiderable delay was usually witnessed, which had a negative effect on the financial health of the home buyer. On one hand, the buyer had to pay the monthly rent where he was residing, and on the other hand, he also paid monthly installments and abide by the terms and conditions of the buyer-builder agreement, thereby overburdening him financially. Unfortunately, there was no one to question the developers and builders. With the RERA coming into force, 56% of home buyers prefer to initiate litigation and dispute resolution under state RERA regulations rather than going to consumer forums, state commissions, or any other court for civil remedies. These home buyers believe that the success ratio of RERA is much more as compared to years of struggle of litigation before other forums and courts. Also, the success ratio of cases under RERA are more result-oriented, expeditious, with concrete judgment being passed against the errant developers and builders. But still, it remains a less known remedy for most of the home buyers and even lawyers. To discuss Act in detail, today we have been joined by Mr. Shekhar Verma. Mr. Verma has completed his LLB and LLM from Punjab University. He has been closely associated with Major Sanjeev Sharma, senior advocate. He has an experience of 18 years. To his credit, his grasp of RERA Act can be measured from the fact that developers like DLF, MR, MGF, Parshnath Developer have retained him on their panel. In addition, thereto, he is counsel for experienced developers, Rangoli Buildtech, Lotus, Infra, R-City Builders, and Chandigarh Housing Board. He is also counsel for Steel Authority of India, Vedanta Group, Trident Group, Greater Mohali Development Authority, and Patiala Development Authority. He has also worked as additional government pleader for Chandigarh administration. I would like to welcome Mr. Shekhar Verma, our keynote speaker, to guide us through the various provisions of the Act. Mr. Shekhar Verma.
Thank you. Friends, today I have been assigned this job to discuss RERA. Before I state what is RERA, for me it is more important to know why is RERA. Because unless we understand the purpose of legislation, we cannot give it a proper interpretation. So why RERA is a more important question than when we later come to what is RERA. Whenever a new enactment is promulgated, the purpose is very much essential to know. Now, as most of us would know, saying this for youngsters. The golden rule to know the real intention of the legislature is to follow mischief rule. Mischief rule, in a more technical terms, we mentioned as a hidden rule. But I will not get into the technicalities. Mischief rule in a simple language follows the principle that we should try to look for the deficiencies before promulgation of a particular act. What was the requirement to promulgate a special act despite availability of various forums, namely Consumer Protection Act, Permanent Lok Adalats, arbitration, 1975 or 1995 Act in the Punjab or Haryana, respectively. So there was no dearth of adjudicating forums insofar as consumer is concerned. They could have approached any of these forums for redressal of their grievances. Now the problem starts, as my friend has rightly put across, that there was the absence of a regulator. We are eyeing crores and crores of FDI, but in absence of a regulator, we were not able to put across ourselves as a established real estate sector, which is regulated by a proper regulator, and there was complete absence of clear guidelines to regulate this business. So, in order to primarily in order to cater all these requirements, somewhere in the year 2008, 2009, a rudimentary form of legislation was introduced in the parliament. Later on, it was introduced as a bill 2013 and onwards. Now, with the coming of this new government in 2016 onwards, we seen amendments and passing of the main act, and then promulgation of rules by the respective state governments. Now, may I briefly discuss what are the deficiencies in the Consumer Protection Act or other such enactments. Now, coming to Consumer Protection Act, as an allotee, I had this forum. I could have approached Consumer Forum for redressal of my grievances, only to show that I am not happy with the builder. I require my money back, or I need certain amount of compensation. But there was no forum available to me where I can go and address that I want that my project should be regulated. So in absence of such regulation, a consumer forum at the most would grant me compensation, or at the most would grant me refund. So that doesn't serve the purpose insofar as a allotee is concerned. Now, similarly, in every builder buyer agreement, there is a standard arbitration clause. In case I am not happy with the services of a builder, or builder is not happy with me as an allotee, either of us could invoke this arbitration clause. Again, problem remains the same. I win or the builder win. Problem remains the same. None of us can regulate this business. There is no other option available except to win or lose. Similarly, other enactments, 1975 Act or 1995 Act in Punjab, where under which license is granted for development of a project. Then, at the time of grant of license, certain conditions are put in that license that a builder is supposed to follow these conditions. In case he fails to follow these conditions, XYZ penalty will be imposed on that builder. But again, same problem. Beyond that penalty, etc., there were certain deficiencies felt by the legislature that no, even these acts are not appropriate. For the purpose we are eyeing basically FDI. Now, with this FDI thing in mind, the government of India promulgated this act. Now, this act has been promulgated. One of the challenges we are facing today in High Court also, that there is a challenge to the wirings of this act. I will come to that later, unless I confuse all of you. I'll get to details later. Now, I go further. Now, with this deficiency, etc., in mind, I go further. Now, this forum, regulatory forum, is in two parts. First, there is a real estate regulatory authority, and the second part is adjudicating officer. Now, both have separate roles. Unfortunately, as of today, there is no clarity with regard to their jurisdiction. Authority has taken jurisdiction of the adjudicating officers, and there is a lot of dispute pending with regard to jurisdiction in the High Court as well as before other forums also. Now, let me just quickly inform you about the disputes which are pending, which are yet to be finalized, which are pending in the High Court, so that we can actually gauge the applicability and usability of this act. Insofar as High Court is concerned, there are primarily 4 disputes still pending. which are creating hurdle in proper implementation of this act. First of all, the definition of ongoing projects is an issue which is pending adjudication before the High Court. Now, when I say ongoing project, High Court is seized of the issue. High Court is seized of the issue where Section 3 of REDA says that all projects should be registered. And in case a project is not registered, a developer or a promoter cannot sell, market, or otherwise develop a project. But insofar as ongoing projects are concerned, the respective state governments have been given complete adjudication, sorry, not adjudication, have been given complete power to define what is an ongoing project. Insofar as state of Punjab is concerned, it has given a very straightforward definition of ongoing projects. It says till such time project is not completed and handed over to the buyers, it would be an ongoing project and it would require registration under REDA. But Haryana has created a confusion. Haryana says till such time development works are not completed, a project is required to be registered. However, proviso, they say in case an application for grant of completion certificate had been filed before promulgation of REDA, that project will not be considered as ongoing project. So essentially, the interpretation would be in case a promoter has applied for grant of completion certificate, notwithstanding the fact that whether he has actually completed or not, there's a mischief also now. So that application can be considered by the competent authority, and wherever that application is pending before promulgation of that act, that project will not be part of ongoing project. So most of the projects have tried to seek exemption this under this clause. So this is the basic dispute, which is to the disadvantage of the allottees, because they are unable to get benefit of REDA because of this discrepancy or anomaly created by government of Haryana. Punjab has done a wonderful job. Now, because of this anomaly created by government of Haryana's definition of ongoing projects, this dispute is pending. The definition is under challenge before the Honorable High Court, and this is still pending. So all builders are taking advantage of this anomalous definition of ongoing projects given by government of Haryana. Now, the second dispute which is pending before the High Court is, I am speaking on practical aspect first, is that whether this act would have prospective effect or retrospective effect. Now, this dispute is also pending before the Honorable High Court. Now, what is dispute? Dispute is that all these projects had been initiated way back in the year 2011, 2012, 2009, 2013, way back, much before promulgation of REDA. Now, before promulgation of REDA, there was a builder-buyer agreement. Allottees would call it as a unilateral agreement to their disadvantage. Nevertheless, there were builder-buyer agreements which would provide a negligible amount of compensation to the allottees. Now, this was one of the consideration, and by promulgating REDA, a uniform platform has provided, and a model by builder-buyer agreement has provided in the act itself. That speaks of a standard rate of compensation, that is 10.45% monthly interest, per annum interest to a allottee. But insofar as existing builder-buyer agreements were concerned, there were negligible amount of compensation stipulated in these agreements. So, in order to take care of these elements, what the authorities have started doing is they have started applying the provisions of REDA with regard to 10.45% of delayed interest or compensation on the projects which had been initiated prior to promulgation of REDA as well. So allottees would contend that they have a right to claim compensation with effect from the date they had entered into builder-buyer agreement, with be it the date 2011, 2010, 2012. Now, promoters have a case. They would contend no, this act would have prospective application, that namely that it would the compensation which has been provided in this act would be applicable from 2017 onwards. And insofar as builder-buyer agreements which had been executed prior thereto, only the compensation which has been mentioned, howsoever negligible it may be, only the compensation which has been mentioned in the builder-buyer agreements would be payable to the allottees. So whether this act has a prospective application or a retrospective application, this dispute is still pending before the Honorable High Court and various other forums. Now, the third dispute which is pending, which makes this act little slow insofar as implementation is concerned, is the jurisdiction part. Now, when as a allotee you approach REDA, obviously you are not happy with your promoter or his performance. Now, under Section 18, you are given three rights. If you are not happy with the performance of the promoter, you can seek refund. One, you can seek, you can take possession, but you can claim delayed possession interest. This is two. Third is the compensation. Over and above the delayed possession, you can seek compensation also. Say for loss of rent, for mental harassment, you can seek compensation also. Now, as far as the scheme of the act goes, as a layman, not as a lawyer, I would say it's plain and simple that refund, interest, or compensation. All these three issues are to be adjudicated by an adjudicating officer, which is the only adjudicating forum provided under REDA. Now, what happened is in the initial days, the authority there was no adjudicating officers. The respective authorities, Punjab or Haryana, be it Haryana or Punjab, they usurped the powers of the adjudicating officers and they started adjudicating these issues. When I say adjudicating, they would entertain disputes with regard to refund, with regard to delayed period possession interest, and for compensation also. So they started adjudicating these issues. Now slowly, builders and promoters they would take this objection that under the act it's only the adjudicating officer who can decide on these issues. Now there are certain judgments available, and as per the judgment which are available till date, though this dispute is pending before the High Court, but the judgments which are available as on date would indicate that insofar as relief or refund and compensation is concerned, it is only the adjudicating officer which can decide this dispute. Insofar as delayed period possession interest is concerned, a regulatory authority can also decide this dispute. So whenever as a allotee you intend to file a complaint, make sure for compensation and refund you go to adjudicating officer, and for delayed period possession interest you can go before a regulatory authority. So though I differ with this view, because for me all these three components are to be adjudicated. These three issues are to be adjudicated by adjudicating officer alone. But the law till date says compensation refund goes to adjudicating officer, delayed period possession goes to authority as well. Now the fourth dispute which is pending before the High Court, and the most serious one, is vires of this act. The fourth challenge, the challenge which is pending in the High Court, is that central government had no competency to promulgate this act. The reason is very simple. The concept of colonization is in list 2. Concept of colonization is in list 2, that is the state list. Now, rightly, wrongly, an act has been promulgated. There's a challenge in the High Court, and High Court is seized of the matter. Now, after stating all this, let us discuss the act. What does this act provide? Now we know why there is REDA, and we know the broad difficulties we are facing today in various forums with regard to four issues, that is ongoing projects, a retrospective prospective issue, jurisdiction, whether authority has the jurisdiction to decide the issue of refund interest or component, or it is with the adjudicating officer, and the fourth issue which is yet to be decided is the vires of the act. So with these four disputes, now may just briefly compare the provisions of REDA with that of Consumer Protection Act. I am getting number of queries from my clients, my colleagues, my friends, my professional colleagues, that which one is more beneficial for the allottees, whether it is Consumer Protection Act or it is Real Estate Regulatory Act. Now, may I just briefly inform that insofar REDA part is concerned, it provides you a speedier remedy for redressal of all your grievances. It provides an equal platform both for the builder as well as for the allottees. Insofar as builder is concerned, an additional advantage to builders is that a builder can also approach REDA against an errant allottee, saying that ABC is not complying with the terms and conditions of the builder-buyer agreement. Therefore, a direction should be given to ABC allottee that he or she should be regular in payment of the sale consideration, or whatever grievance a builder has against an allottee, he can approach REDA. This is the additional advantage now available to a builder. Insofar as an allottee is concerned, good thing is that it is a much more speedier remedy. REDA provides a much more speedier remedy than Consumer Protection Act. Now, one of the most important deterrent which is provided by REDA, insofar as a builder is concerned, is that in case a builder loses his case before REDA, he is supposed to pay 100% of the awarded amount before he can file an appeal. Insofar as Consumer Protection Act is concerned, in case say I am a builder, I lose before a forum. All that I'm supposed to deposit is when I'm filing an appeal is 50% of the awarded amount or 25,000, whichever is less. So as a builder, as a promoter, I am happy with Consumer Protection Act. As a allottee, if you approach against me under Consumer Protection Act, I am very happy because I am in a position to harass you. But as far as REDA is concerned, in case an award comes against me, I cannot file an appeal unless I deposit 100% of the awarded amount with the appellate authority. So this is a great advantage insofar as allottees are concerned. Now, next, I would say the disadvantage of REDA. Insofar consumer protection is concerned, it provides you a robust mechanism for redressal of your complaints. It has a very good execution procedure. Insofar I'm talking about CP Act. It has enormous powers to ensure that its award is executed. But however, insofar REDA is concerned, it is much more convenient for a allottee to approach REDA to get an award. Normally, as to my experience says, within a month or 2 months, an award is given by a respective authority. But problem arises at the time of execution. Execution is very slow insofar REDA is concerned because of various factors. So I must caution, you can approach under REDA for a speedier resolution of disputes. You are lucky if a promoter agrees to pay your amount upon filing of execution. But insofar execution part under REDA is concerned, it provides you, gives you a very, very slow remedy. So execution part under REDA is very slow. It has so many problems. This act is in its nascent stage, and a lot of amendments are required to provide a speedier remedy insofar execution part is concerned. So for execution, I would say REDA is not at all a good forum at this stage. It requires a lot of amendments. But yes, overall, it's a very good enactment insofar vis-a-vis Consumer Protection Act. Now we go further to the provisions of REDA. REDA starts with Section 3. Now, before we go ahead with the provisions, I must inform that REDA simply provides a policing mechanism. It has nothing to do with the approvals given by various authorities. It simply provides you policing mechanism. Just an example, if you have to cross a road crossing point is A, and it just ensures that it helps you to cross road from point A to point B. That is from the date a project is initiated and till the date is completed. That's all. It has nothing to do with the permissions, approvals, nothing. It simply provides you a policing mechanism. It basically gives you a danda on a builder. That's all. Now, insofar as permission, etc. are concerned, Section 3 onwards, it starts. Section 3 provides that no builder or promoter can put its project for sale, or it cannot market, it cannot develop, it cannot construction unless the project is registered under REDA. So it says before a project is put to sale, advertisement, etc., a project should be registered. And in case you fail to get your project registered, penalty is very heavy. Penalty is almost up to the extent of 10% of the total cost of the project. So now under Section 3, first thing first, under Section 3, as a promoter, you are supposed to get your project registered. Yeah, suppose now you are given a license to say develop 100 acres of land under a single license. At the time of getting registered, getting your project registered, you can always give a declaration that, look, I will develop this project in a chunk of 30 acres each. That is in phases. That is perfectly okay. So you can start with 30 acres, another 40 acres, then remaining 30 or 40 acre, whatever. But you need to get your project registered. Now, when you get your project registered, the formalities required are that the license that you have obtained from the competent authority under respective state laws, the layout plans, the zoning plans, etc., your building construction plans, and your title to land, etc. All this information you are supposed to provide to RERA authorities. And all this information is supposed to be uploaded on a portal, on a website provided by RERA. So as an allottee, before you purchase the plot or flat, this information you can go and check on official website of respective regulatory authorities. Right? Now, all this information would also include a declaration on the part of a developer that in how much time it will complete the project. 70% of the money received from the allottees is supposed to be kept in a separate dedicated account. So prior to RERA, I have cases where 100% of the amount received from the allottees would be siphoned off by a builder. Now, in order to check this mischief, 70% of the amount is to be deposited, is to be kept under the strict vigil of RERA authorities. So this is all this information is supposed to be given to regulatory authority before your project can be registered. When you complete the formalities which are stated in section 4 of RERA, a formal registration certificate is guaranteed by the component by regulatory authority under section 5. Now under section 5, the time period you have disclosed in your application that I will complete my project say in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, that is a voluntary declaration. You may take as much time you want. No problem at all. But for a builder, a serious problem arises when he or she has given a timeline in the builder buyer agreement and he has to comply with that timeline. Suppose as a builder, I don't comply with that timeline. An allottee has an absolute right to say, no, please refund my money. That no is under section 18. Now under section 18, may I just quickly jump to section 18. Section 18 provides a complete right, absolute right, plain language to an allottee. It says, in case as an allottee, I am not happy with the performance of a developer and the project is not being developed as per the terms and conditions of builder-buyer agreement, I have a right to seek immediate refund. No ifs, no buts, no excuse. This is my absolute right. But on practical part of this aspect, I must inform that authorities are not taking it that plain and simple. They, during the course of hearings, authorities are trying to struck a kind of compromise. In case a project is 70 to 80% complete and it is delayed, no doubt it is delayed, say delayed by 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Endeavor of the respective allottees is to ensure that a project is completed and the allottees are made to understand that they should take possession. Though with delayed possession compensation or interest, that's fine. But allottees are not allowed to exit the project. Though the act says they can exit the project even if there is a delay of 1 day. But on a practical aspect, authorities are not allowing you to exit in case project is around 60 to 70% complete. So this is the practical aspect. Now I proceed further. Section 19. Section 19 of the Act provides an equal platform to both allottee as well as the builder or promoter. Both can file a complaint before the concerned authority or the adjudicating officer against each other. So this act necessarily regulates business between promoter and allottee and amongst promoter, allottee and a real estate agent who acted as your broker at the time you invested in a particular plot or flat. So these three persons, namely promoter, allottee and a real estate agent, are subject to this act. Nobody else, that's all, only three persons. Now we proceed further. Now there are certain obligations which a promoter is supposed to discharge, and in case he fails to discharge these obligations, there are two remedies available to allottee against him. Now broadly, obligations are of two forms. One, there are obligations which arise from the act or the rules or regulation. Then the second set of obligations are which arise from the builder-buyer agreement. A very thin difference, but nevertheless there is a difference. So insofar as RERA part is concerned, section 11 onwards, section 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17 also. These are the obligations which are supposed to be discharged by a promoter against insofar project is concerned. In case there is any deficiency or in case there is a default on his part, penalty is very heavy. It could be a jail also. It could be 10% of the project cost also. So these are the obligations which arise from the rules and act. Now there is a second set of obligations which would arise from the default or from the builder buyer agreement, the default or builder buyer agreement. So insofar those are concerned, those are necessarily in the nature of compensation. You can seek compensation in case there is a default on the part of a promoter or a builder. You can seek compensation for default insofar as builder buyer agreement is concerned. Section 18, 19. Now let us proceed further. Now section 31. Next important section is section 31 onwards. Section 31 basically provides for adjudicating forums. Section 31 gives complete liberty, independence to the respective state governments to prescribe the role of a adjudicating forum. What kind of dispute will be dealt by the regulatory authority and what kind of dispute will be dealt by adjudicating officer is under section 31 and the rules, corresponding rules. Section 32 of the RERA provides that authority has the function to give recommendations to the respective state governments for smooth functioning of real estate sector. So it's a recommendatory function. So they're not that very important. Next is section 34, functions of authority. Section 34 would provide what kind of functions a regulatory authority is to undertake. Again, not a very important thing to do. Section 35 is the most potent weapon available to a regulatory authority. Section 35 read with the relevant or corresponding rule. Section 35 provides complete powers to a regulatory authority to investigate, to call upon the records from a promoter, a lottee, or a real estate agent. Under this section, authority can appoint an expert. Suppose a CA is appointed, chartered accountant is appointed for a financial audit of a promoter. Suppose in case you are feeling that your money is being siphoned off, you can always file an application with the authority for appointment of a financial auditor. And from my experience, I can tell you, financial auditors are given complete power. They give an actual ground report about your funds you have paid. They get complete details where these funds have been siphoned off, if at all there is any embezzlement, etc. So section 35 gives complete power to the authority. This is the most potent weapon available to authority, and it has also power of certain powers available under CPC also. So under section 35, you can actually get complete records of a promoter, a lottee, or a real estate agent, and necessary corrective measures can be taken. Experts can be appointed to regulate your business. Now under section 36, authority has the power to issue interim orders. In case you apprehend that your allotment is being cancelled for some wrong reasons, you can always file an application for issuance of interim protection under section 36. Section 37 is again a general power. I will not get into this. Section 38 of the authority is again a very important power available to authority. It says it has power to impose penalty or interest in regard to any contravention of obligations. Now this is very important. It says authority has the power to impose penalty or interest in regard to any contravention. Section 38 says the authority shall have powers to impose penalty or interest in regard to any contravention. I'm sorry. The authority shall have power to impose penalty or interest in regard to any contravention of obligations cast upon the promoters, the allottees, and the real estate agents under this act or the rules and regulations made thereunder. So this is the next most potent weapon available to an authority. Now under this very section 38, authority can impose as much as almost equivalent to 10% of the total project cost as fine or penalty. It can send a builder to a jail, to jail. And briefly, I take all of you back from section 11 to 17. These are the obligations which a promoter is supposed to discharge. Section 11 provides for functions and duties of a promoter. You can read it has to display all statutory approvals plans on its website. I go further. Section 12 says obligation of promoter regarding veracity of the advertisement or prospectus. So now a promoter can no longer give a incorrect information in its advertisement. In case there is any incorrect or misleading information, penalty can be imposed by the authority. Penalty, I again repeat, it can be up to 10% of the total project cost. And no project, a real estate project is less than 200 crores. So you can very well imagine the extent of penalty. Section 13 is no deposit or advance to be taken by promoter without first entering into agreement for sale. So before a promoter goes ahead and raise a demand beyond the 10% as mentioned in this section, it has to first enter into agreement for sale. The good thing under REDA is now they have provided a standard agreement for sale. There's a model agreement for sale next to this act or rules. Every builder or promoter is supposed to enter the execute the model agreement for sale. Now a builder cannot dictate terms. Now that agreement which has been given as a model agreement, that is a standard agreement. It takes care of all the worries of an allottee, all worries. It's a wonderfully drafted model agreement. So that is next to the rules. Now section 14 says adherence to sanction plans and project specifications by the promoter. Now promoter is supposed to strictly follow the sanction plans and project specifications. Now again a penalty can be imposed, and this penalty is in addition to the punitive measures available to a respective government which has granted you respective license or sanction. It has sanction plans. In addition to those punitive measures, authority now can impose a penalty also. Now, stricter regime. Section 15 is again very important, and it is being used now by all the allottees. In number of projects I have come across, a promoter obtains a license, and the very next day on a premium, he or she or it sells its project for a premium. Now section 15 is very clear. It says obligation of a promoter in case of transfer of a real estate project to a third party. It is very important insofar allottees are concerned. The promoter shall not transfer, section 15 I am reading. The promoter shall not transfer or assign his majority rights and liabilities in respect of a real estate project to a third party without obtaining prior written consent from 2/3 of allottees, except the promoter, and without prior written approval of the authority. So promoter now has to take consent from 2/3 of its allottees and a written approval from the authority, a regulatory authority, before it enters into an agreement to sell its project to a third entity. Where a promoter would obtain a license, it would sell its project and run away. Section 16, obligations of promoter regarding issuance of real estate project. So this provides that a project should be insured. Not very important. Section 70 is also transfer title, not of much importance. 1890. So these are the obligations which have been mentioned in section 38. We just read section 38. So these are the obligations a promoter is supposed to discharge. Now section 39. Section 39 provides you a period of 2 years to get an order rectified. It is akin to part to review. So in case there is some mistake in the order, you have 2 years to get the same rectified. Section 39. Section 40. Section 40 is again troublesome issue. I will come to that later. Section 40 gives the power to execute the orders passed by the authority or the adjudicating officer or the appellate authority. It says if a promoter on a lottee or a real estate agent, as the case may, fails to pay any interest or penalty or compensation imposed on him by the adjudicating officer or the regulatory authority or the appellate authority, as the case may be, under this act or the rules and regulations made thereunder, it shall be recoverable from such promoter or a lottee or real estate agent in such manner as may be prescribed as an arrears of land revenue. Here is the problem. When I earlier said that execution part is a problem under REDA, this is the problem. When we use the word areas of land revenue, it necessarily means a recovery certificate
Am I audible? Padam?
There was a break in between. Now you're audible, sir. But thoda, your network is, the bandwidth is low.
Just hold on. No? Can you hear?
हाँ ठीक है.
Okay. Now in section earlier I spoke about the difficulties being faced by a number of allottees when they are getting this executed, when they are getting awards or orders executed. This is the problem. Section 40 says interest, penalty or compensation recovery mode would be areas of land revenue. Areas of land revenue, all civil lawyers would know a recovery certificate is issued by authority and it is executed by the concerned SDM or the collector or the deputy commissioner as they call it. Now, Haryana, now the second part is if any adjudicating officer or regulatory authority or appellate tribunal, as the case may be, issues any order or directs any person to do any act. So please appreciate the difference. In the first part, it says fails to pay any interest, penalty, or compensation. Second part, it says issues any order, directs any person to do any act or refrain from doing any act which it is in power to do under this act or the rules or regulations made thereunder. Then in case of failure by any person to comply with such order or direction, the same shall be enforced in such manner as may be prescribed. So in 41 and 42, section 2, word use is prescribed. Now, wherever you read the word prescribed, prescribed means prescribed as per rules. Now under section 41, in case you want to file an execution for recovering interest, penalty or compensation, you have to go to concerned collector. But in the under part 2, the direction of the orders they are speaking out are in the nature of mandatory injunctions. So for mandatory injunctions, we all know Order 21, Rule 32. This much power has been given to the authority under Rule 27. So authority or adjudicating officer can execute directions or orders under part 2, but they do not have any power for recovery of interest, penalty or compensation. This is the plain language used in this section. However, insofar Punjab is concerned, they have specifically mentioned that for recovery of interest, penalty or compensation, a person has to approach the concerned collector. So Punjab is very clear. Haryana has again created an anomaly. Haryana says authority or the adjudicating officer can proceed to get these orders insofar as recovery of interest, penalty or compensation part is concerned. So personally, I have filed a writ petition. I have challenged the varies of the rule framed by the government of Haryana. And this is the area which I feel that REDA is not very much clear and the allottees would be facing this difficulty in the longer run. They will get an order in their favor within a period of 2 months, but they will not be able to get their orders executed under REDA. This is the area of concern. Now under section 43, quickly, there's a provision to file an appeal before the first appellate court, and the relevant would be 43.5. It says any person aggrieved by any direction or decision or order made by the authority or by an adjudicating officer under this act may prefer an appeal before the appellate tribunal, provided that where a promoter. Now, good thing for allottees is they are not supposed to pay anything, but as far as promoter is concerned, it says provided that where a promoter files an appeal with the appellate tribunal, it shall not be entertained without the promoter first having deposited with the appellate tribunal at least 30% of the penalty or such higher percentage as may be determined by the appellate tribunal, or the total amount to be paid to the allottee, including interest and compensation imposed upon him. So there under REDA, there can be two type of awards. One, a promoter can be penalized. In case a promoter has been penalized for violation of any of the obligations, then 30% of the amount to be deposited. In case there is an award in favor of allottee, say there is a direction or order to refund 100% amount along with interest and compensation. In that scenario, 100% of the amount along with interest, awarded interest and compensation is to be deposited as a precondition to file an appeal. So this is a very good provision for allottees. Unlike Consumer Protection Act, where only 50% or 25,000, whichever is less, is to be deposited by a promoter. So this provision is actually beneficial provision for all the allottees. Now the next important provision would be Section 53, which provides for powers of the tribunal. Unlike authority, a tribunal has been vested with powers of a civil court and its powers are much more wider than the authority. I skip it. Nothing. Now section 58. Now an order has been passed by authority. It is under it has been challenged before an appellate tribunal before both the forums of builder loses. Example. Now an appeal and statutory appeal lies to the High Court. A writ petition. Earlier, some of my colleagues and even I also tried a writ petition. Now view of the High Court is very clear. High Court is not going to entertain any writ petition unless you challenge varies, etc. Now, if you have any grievance against any order passed by the authority or the appellate tribunal, only a statutory appeal is maintainable under section 58 before the High Court. A special nomenclature has been given to these appeals. They are technically known as REDA Appel. RERA-APPL. REDA Appel. It's like FAORSA, REDA Appel appeal. So appeal, the grounds of appeal would be like grounds available to a person under section 100 of the Civil Procedure Code. So necessarily there would be appeal would be entertained in case a serious or important question of law is involved. So we should be very careful. So that question of law should be clearly stated in our appeal before our appeal is filed under REDA. And in so limitation part is concerned, it is 60 days against the order passed by the authority, and it is again 60 days against the order passed by the appellate authority or the appellate tribunal. I'm sorry. So and part 2 condone is there, absolutely there. Now we go on to the next part, next important section, that is section chapters 8, offenses, penalties, and adjudication. So these deal with all kind of offenses and punishments against the violations. Section 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. These provide penalties against the promoter. So these and provides for adjudicating mechanism also. I need not to go through this. Section 71 is the next important section. Section 71 provides for power to adjudicate. It says for the purpose of adjudging compensation. Please read the word carefully. Section 71 I am reading. For the purpose of adjudging compensation under section 12, 14, 18, and 19. The authority shall appoint in consultation with the appropriate government one or more judicial officer. Now the confusion which has been created in so far challenge to jurisdiction is concerned, it starts from section 71. I read it again. It says for the purpose of adjudging compensation. There is no such word as refund or interest for delayed possession. It says only for compensation under section 12, 14, 18, and 19. Authority shall appoint in consultation with the appropriate government one or more judicial officer who would be adjudicating officer. Now proviso, provided that any person whose complaint in respect of matters covered under section 12, 14, or 18 and section 19 is pending before the consumer dispute forums or the consumer disputes, those matters will be transferred to REDA. Right? Now the issue is section 71 first 3 lines says only for the purpose of compensation you can approach adjudicating officer. Proviso says any person whose complaint in respect of matters covered in section 12, 14, 18, and 19. Now if you go to section 12, 14, 18, and 19, it speaks of refund also, in delayed possession interest also, and compensation also. Here there is a anomalous situation where first 3 lines of section 71 speaks of only compensation. Proviso speaks of all issues under section 12, 14, 18, and 19. Now section 72. It says factors to be taken into account by the adjudicating officer while adjudging a quantum of compensation or interest. Again confusion. 71 says only compensation. 72 says compensation or interest. Interest has to be delayed possession interest, as the case may be. Under section 71, the adjudicating officer shall have due regard to the following factors, namely the amount of disproportionate gain, unfair advantage, wherever quantifiable, the amount of loss, the repetitive nature of default, such other factors which the adjudicating officers consider necessary to the case in furtherance of justice. Now, may I sum up the dispute? Section 71 and 72 uses the word compensation. At the same time, in the very next line, it uses the word compensation and interest. And if we go back to section 38, 38 again uses the word that authority has the power to impose penalty or interest. Interest is as prescribed under Rule 15. So there is a dispute Section 38 may just read it quickly. The authority 38. The authority shall have the power to impose penalty or interest. Penalties is under chapter 8 we have just read. Under chapter 8 there is no interest mentioned. Interest under section 38 also interest. 72 again interest. Now this is the dispute pending before the High Court, that which would be the correct adjudicating forum, whether the authority or the adjudicating officer, which can go into this aspect. As of now, authorities are deciding all issues except compensation. Compensation part is going to adjudicating officers. Interest component or disputes with regard to interest is concerned, regulatory authorities are deciding these issues. Now promoters are up in appeal in the petitions also, or in appeals also, saying that authorities have no jurisdiction to award interest. The jurisdiction, if any, lies with the adjudicating officer. So this dispute is still pending before the High Court. Now, section 80, regulation, part of it, regulation. Section 88, 89 are again important, and we should read this quickly. Section 88 says, the provision of this act shall be in addition to and not in derogation of the provisions of any other law for the time being in force. That means it's an additional remedy, just like section 3 of the Consumer Protection Act we were discussing the other day also. Section 89 says, act to have overriding effect. The provisions of this act shall have effect notwithstanding anything inconsistent therewith contained in any other law for the time being in force. So it's a overriding part. So this is the basic scheme of REDA. Now, may I just quickly touch one more aspect? Just give me a second. Yes. Now, just to clear certain confusions, as on date, the law as on date due to certain judicial orders and judgments is, in case you are seeking refund along with compensation, you would be filing a complaint before adjudicating officer. Please, this is very important because we waste a lot of time filing by approaching wrong forums. As on date, law is that in case you are seeking refund and compensation, you will file a complaint before adjudicating officer. In case you are seeking only refund, adjudicating officer. In case you are seeking only compensation, adjudicating officer. But in case you are seeking delayed possession interest and you are accepting possession otherwise, then as on today, law is you will approach regulatory authority. For project violations also, you can approach authority, because for project violations, it is only the authority which has the power to impose penalty on a promoter.
And what about promoters?
Promoters can file under section 19 for the AO. Because they would be seeking a direction against authorities that they are not paying their balance sale consideration, so they would be filing a complaint before AO.
Okay.
If you ask me personally, Vishal, I would say no, it is only the adjudicating officer which has power to adjudicate all these issues. The regulatory authority has an overall control over a project. But insofar as this nitpick short-term issues are concerned, it is only the adjudicating officer which has the sole jurisdiction to decide these three issues. Somehow, authority has taken this jurisdiction from the AO, but this is my personal view. Haji, anything else? Padam, I think we can proceed with question answer.
Okay. Thank you, Shekharji. Thank you, Shekharji. That was a really wonderful insight into REDA. And we all got to know about it. The fact that no one knew why REDA was formed, even though they knew that it was formed, it was for the beneficial of all. But what was the difference between CP Act and REDA has been very beautifully explained. And of course, the rights and of the allottees as well as the promoters, which are covered in this. Of course, now having so much of clarity, we have so many questions also to ask. So I'll now open the platform for questions. All those who want to ask questions may please unmute yourself and ask questions. Yes, anyone for the questions? Or
yeah, Vishal, I have one question.
Anji, please go ahead. Bhavjit, yes, go ahead.
My question is my question is that the sir has said about that the financial expert can be appointed for getting the insight or any information from the promoter. Right. So that financial expert or a CA will be of our choice, or there is some panel, or what is
the panel? There is a panel. There is a
approved panel. Okay.
Approved panel.
And the charges for that will be borne by?
by the
applicant,
promoter, by the promoter. Immediate charges are borne by the authority itself, but later it is recovered from the promoter.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else for the question?
Shekharji, there's a recent judgment by Honorable Division Bench Justice Rajan Gupta's bench restricting some Punjab has done something due to COVID circumstances. They have done something.
There's a Delhi model by Justice Rajan Gupta. But see what happened. Punjab has given an automatic extension to registration of projects. Now in that case, there is a challenge. They say the builder who is in default prior to COVID-19, he or she cannot be granted automatic extension. So that part has been stated by the High Court.
Shekharji, if the promoter files it, but they're filing it before the regulatory authority only, and they are adjudicating it, not before the AO. Are the appellate authorities considering it as a valid ground for setting aside?
Yes.
In Haryana also?
I see. I tell you, there are a number of orders against some of my clients where even the fund has been ordered by the regulatory authority. So I have filed appeals. In all those appeals, the decision have been reversed, and the fresh adjudication has been ordered by the appellate authority.
Have the authorities appointed AOs?
Answer would be yes, but I would say they are more or less redundant because it is actually the authority.
Most of the places there were no AOs earlier.
No AOs have been appointed.
Punjab has AOs.
Punjab is doing wonderful. Punjab is doing good.
And
Haryana there is a lot of Haryana authorities are doing very good, but there is a lot of confusion due to anomalies in the rules.
Okay.
Can I ask something?
Yes, Asim, please go ahead.
Until recently we were seeing that against the orders passed by the RERA also, people were filing writ petitions and High Court was entertaining them also. So now, since the Act itself is providing for remedies, then how is the writ maintainable?
All these writ petitions have been filed in the guise of challenge to varies. Challenge to varies. I have also filed a number of writ petitions. I have challenged varies. Varies again same issues, jurisdictional issue. Whether
but then if somebody has already had a decision from RERA authority first and then afterwards he's challenging, I mean, submitting to the jurisdiction and then challenging the varies?
Yes, I have also filed certain petitions where I have challenged varies based on the order passed by authority.
That is out of advocacy.
But that is exactly what he's saying, that having once submitted to the jurisdiction of the authority or whatever,
I have not submitted to, because before authority also we had taken objection that you don't have the jurisdiction.
Okay.
One question, Shekharji, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Piyush, please go ahead.
I'm audible. Shekharji, what's happening is generally in real estate project is that once the lotteries come in to start living in the projects, what happened is civic amenities are not provided to. So is there any section or any teeth with the RERA authorities that they can direct the municipal corporation councils to provide the civic amenities, because the builder, there are anomalous agreements between the builder and, so what would be the remedy? Should we approach the RERA authority or the traditional courts?
RERA has no authority, no power to direct any of the authorities. It made an attempt to pass certain directions against DTCP Haryana. Okay. He raised objections and he filed a proper complaint against the authority to the CM.
Okay.
So ultimately, RERA has been told that you don't have any power in such authorities are concerned. You can only regulate business amongst promoter, lotteries, and real estate agents. That's all. This is the scope of your jurisdiction.
And is there any power with the RERA authority to direct the builder to file for the completion certificate once he allots his majority of the flats or the units to the lotteries?
See, it certainly
is there
has
some time, because these completion certificates keep pending for years to years.
It certainly has the power. But builder, it's in the interest of the builder or promoter to apply for completion certificate as early as possible, because otherwise also it has to pay license fee, EDC, etc. So it is in his own interest to apply for a completion certificate. Yes, but otherwise, yes, authority has the power to direct the builder to complete formalities in this regard at the earliest and apply for.
Thank you so much.
In extension to this question, that would also mean that the disputes between the members of the society or registered RWA and builders, that is not within the jurisdiction of RERA.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Interest dispute between the members of the society.
Yes, yes.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yes, Dr. Bishnoi, you can ask the question, please.
Sir, good evening. Shekhar ji, कैसे हो?
बढ़िया, आनंद जी बिल्कुल बढ़िया.
Sir, मेरा दो questions है मेरे.
हाँ जी.
मेरा पहला क्वेश्चन तो ये है कि I have a case which has been decided by appellate authority. And some order has been passed that includes in giving of possession also, and we have to pay some amount, XYZ amount.
So there's a direction to give possession and create possession interest also.
Yes.
Okay.
And that XYZ amount involves huge calculation.
Huge, okay.
Matlab that has not been decided by lower court also, appellate court also. Both courts have been silent. They have broadly decided. See, जैसे ये ELC के charges हैं और floor area ratio इस तरह करके काफी calculations हैं. That has not been decided. कितने पैसे देने हैं? But वो calculations है. Now what is happening? Once we are going to builder is interpreting these order in his own way, which is beneficial to him. अब जो कैलकुलेशन हम कर रहे हैं, जो कैलकुलेशन वो कर रहे हैं, there is a difference of 5-6 lakhs. So meaning thereby we are not getting possession because we are not able to pay him. जो हमारा अमाउंट है, हमारे अमाउंट के हमारे को पोजीशन वो देगा नहीं. So what is remedy as of now? क्या कर सकते?
You will have to file a proper execution application for the regulatory authority or the EO, whoever decided this issue, and that will be again assigned a number. I'm on practical aspect. I'm sorry. That complaint will be again assigned a number, and in that complaint, this dispute will be again decided. This is the unfortunate part of Haryana litigation part. This is what they are doing.
So, meaning thereby we have to get this order executed. We have to
execute again to same officer.
RERA authority, not the appellate authority. Yeah?
Not appellate authority. No.
So that नहीं मेरा एक चीज और भी है. Execution is about executing. ये should be वो decide कर देंगे, or should we file a review or clarification, whatever?
You can file for a review also in section 39. You can certainly file a review or clarification. You can certainly. Appellate authority has been given this kind of direction to authorities in Panchkula and Gurgaon also, that they should be very particular with the awarded amount. They should calculate the amount and mention it in order. But for some XYZ, there are certain ego issues, I don't know. They are not giving these calculations, and appellate authority is passing these kinds of order in almost every case, that deliberately these amounts are left without any calculations, and it is only the allottee who's being harassed. Despite these clear directions, number of cases, clear directions have been given, but for some reasons, authorities are not cooperating, and they are going the way they have been going.
So, you say we have to go for execution. But आज की डेट में कोरोना के सिचुएशन करके वो तो हम वो भी नहीं.
I think there is a notification today that from 15 July onwards they are starting with the functioning. They are starting with the functioning.
Regular settings.
Regular settings.
And elaborate little more on the difficulties being faced in execution.
Well, difficulty is same now, because for me as a lawyer, this is my mind. I'm not on anything else. It is only the collector who would be issued a recovery certificate, and he would be executing that certificate. But executing these authorities, they are again assuming the role of a collector also, and they are proceeding ahead with executions. What they are doing is they are showing to promoter to karta ki nahi karta. So promoter, under the threat of this penalty, 10% of the cost of the project penalties, they are paying. So sheer danda thing is going on. Otherwise, if you ask me as a lawyer, this process is wrong. Because if you go to Punjab rules clearly provide that it is only the concerned collector who would be issued a certificate, and he would be executing that certificate. And we all know, doing civil work, that executing a certificate of this nature is a tedious job. But now, insofar as consumer protection authorities are concerned or forums are concerned, we all know day an order is passed, we filed for execution, and a non-available warrant is issued against the promoter, and very next day money is released to the allottee. So this is the good thing about consumer forums.
So they have no power similar to section 27 of CP Act?
No, not at all.
सर एक और रिक्वेस्ट कर लूं?
हाँ जी.
एक ऐसी कोई आपके पास अगर एप्लीकेशन हो, मेरे को भिजवा दोगे?
सर प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है, आप प्लीज प्राइवेट अपने फोन कर लेना, प्लीज कॉल ऑन प्राइवेट टेलीफोन.
Sir, can I just one more thing, sir?
Shekhar ji, can I file a complaint after taking the possession?
See, yes, you can file a complaint, and relief has been granted to.
Can it be entertained?
I'm coming on that. A number of complaints have been filed after taking possession, and favorable orders have been given in favor of the allottees. But now, recently, I am up in appeal on behalf of a promoter, and I am pleading the concept of accord and discharge and satisfaction. Because once the possession has been taken, my agreement has been validly discharged. So this is the ground I am taking in these appeals. But as of now, complaints have been entertained, and relief has been granted to the allottees.
But the act says once you take the possession, then it has not been entertained by the.
No, act is not happily worded. The act is not happily worded. It says otherwise also.
In case the court orders, instead of refund, it says that the dispute is concerning EDC charges. The builder, even after 10 years, even long after the promised date of delivery, he doesn't deliver, and he keeps asking for EDC charges. And the buyer goes into RERA, and RERA orders that no, you will charge the EDC as on the date of buyer-builder agreement, and within so and so time you will complete the project. And in case you're not able to do it, then they let the buyers form their own society, and the project be handed over to the society to the buyers only to complete it on their own. Now, this kind of a direction, nobody challenges it. Also, nobody is going into appeal, and this is not even being complied with. What is the remedy left with the buyers?
Insofar as EDC part is concerned, EDC is determined on the day a license is granted.
That is there.
I'm coming to your query only. In case say I get a license on today, it's 6th of July 2020. On this day, EDC determined I am supposed to pay X amount as determined by a competent authority today. So now I'm in default. I could be in default. I may be in default for say number of years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. So the EDC that had been determined on 6th of July 2018 would carry interest now at a statutory rate of 10% or 12%. That interest keep accumulating, but the installments paid by every allottee inherently contains a component of EDC also. So there you can file a complaint against the builder that the installments that I have paid that has been misutilized or embezzled or siphoned out, because in every installment there is a component of EDC.
So my question is that direction was there. Ultimately the authority directed that within 6 months you will complete the project, and in case you fail to do it, then you will hand it over to the buyers only. They will form their own society and they will go ahead with it on their own. Now that neither the builder is completing the project nor he is handing it over to the buyers. Now, even if they go into execution, what will the executing court do?
Executing this authority has power under Section 8 of RERA to hand over the project to the allottees. Now, formal order will be passed. Already an order has been passed in a Faridabad matter. That is, I think, of Piyush Buildtech, where allottees have been called upon to form an association, and they have in fact formed an association, and that association has been handed over this project for development. That project can be given to you. But insofar EDC part is concerned, that money, authority is also facing difficulty from whom this money is to be recovered. That part authority is also unable to comprehend, because that money has been siphoned out.
And money has been siphoned. What had happened was 2008 they got a license, they surrendered it in 2013, then 2014 the builder got a fresh license, and then they again started charging EDC as per the 2014 rate. So our case was, you can't do this. 2008 we will pay as per 2008, and court accepted our stand also. But they only said then hand over the possession. This order was passed in December, and till date nothing has happened. So now the buyers are also wondering, order to ho gaya, ab karenge kya?
But I quickly share that in so EDC part is concerned, now authority has no part to give this kind of a finding that whether A rate will be applicable, B rate will be applicable. It is a rate that will be determined by the competent in the nature of revenue, state revenue. So authority is passing incorrect order in case it has passed such kind of order, because in Piyush Buildtech also they had given assurance to the allottees that in so far EDC or IDC charges are concerned, you leave it on to us. We will ensure that state government will exempt these charges. Now at the execution stage, authority made a sincere effort to ensure that these charges are waived out. There's some concessions given by state government. State government has filed a reply saying, sorry, these are our charges. We will not budget the inch, and we will recover each and every penny along with interest. Authority has no power to give such kind of direction, or even I would say the recommendation to the authorities. It is to this extent this order is incorrect. They will later, sooner or later, the authorities will face this problem.
Like in then in my case, they surrendered the license and they again brought a license, and then tomorrow they will again surrender license and again get a fresh license.
You seek that this project should be handed over to you. No? The once this project is handed over to you, you become a promoter. But you will have to pay EDC charges to the state government. You may ultimately recover from a builder, from his pocket, from his sell his car, sell his bungalow, whatever you do. But state government is not going to give any kind of exemption or discount on discount. They will recover the amount as determined on the date.
The buyers can proceed against the builder also.
Actually, yes. Recovery suit. File a recovery
suit.
Recovery suit. You personally do whatever you want to do. No?
That will not be within RERA. That will be recovery suit.
Recovery suit, or the builder can be imposed penalty. Huh? That penalty part can be recovered from the builder in accordance with whatever the remedy.
Thank you.
One more question, Shekharji. Is it can we file RERA complaint after availing the remedy of NCLT under Section 7?
With liberty.
With liberty.
Next question is by Padamji, please.
Yes. Shekharji, what is the ground reality? Because a consumer buyer is going to the RERA seeking his refund. I do not want the possession. Kindly refund me. Because there is a agreement, buyer's agreement. There is a clause: 3 years plus 6 months. They will complete the project and hand over the possession. But if they do not, say 4 years, they do not hand over the possession, and a buyer files a complaint in RERA, does he get some order, positive order, or he's just being excused? Okay, it is just 6 months, or it's just 1 year late. Okay, wait for some.
Practical aspect of this would be that in case your project is 70 to 80% complete, then you will not be getting any refund. Then the direction you may keep insisting for refund. Direction would be take possession.
We'll have to come up to High Court. We'll have to come up to High Court.
This is the practical aspect of this issue.
And one thing more, like you said, that once this builder has to file an appeal before the authority, he has to deposit 100% of the amount. And what is the position in High Court if he has to file in High Court also?
No, High Court he need not file them, because once you have deposited his money.
If a consumer loses in before the authority, executing officer, and he files an appeal before the authority, he wins there, then builder will go in appeal High Court. It is like plaintiff loses in trial court and wins in appellate court. Then in High Court, whether the defendant.
Padam, it's a tricky question. I agree with you, because there is no such provision in the Act. But the logical answer would be he will have to comply with Section 43. Logical answer would be this. Otherwise, we will be going the spirit of the Act.
Logical answer would be because it is his first appeal. He has to deposit.
Actually, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the question? Atulji probably was wanting to ask something. Atulji, you want to ask something? Anyone else for the question? I think if anyone else wants to, Padamji, please take over.
Shekhar is always with us in our chamber.
Piyushji, want to ask a question?
No, Piyushji, what of
Piyushji.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, Shekhar.
Thank you.
I thank Shekharji for providing us with the valuable inputs about the Real Estate Regulation and Development Act and its finer imprint, like Section 35. Like I filed some cases, but I do not know that the Section 35 provides the teeth with the authority to appoint a financial auditor, which unbundles the financial bungling by the builder. And I hope that all our participants will be benefited from the same. I again thank
Piyush, I'm sorry, not only financial advisor, but so many technical advisors. You go to the relevant rule, you will find so many technical experts can be appointed.
Thanks for the input. I again thank Shekharji for his valuable time, for sparing his time for the webinar. Lastly, I would like to thank all the participants watching us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Finally, thanks to our technical team, without whose support this webinar couldn't be possible. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shekharji. Thank you. Time to end the session. See you soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.